The rain over Seattle had a way of making people honest. And on that Thursday evening, it pressed against the city like a question no one wanted to answer. Ethan Miller stood alone in his apartment, staring at the skyline through the glass wall, feeling like his life was balanced on a thin edge. Outside, headlights blurred into long lines of white and red. Inside, everything looked perfect to perfect. Clean counters, soft music, candles already lit. It was the kind of night people remembered later and said, "That's when it all changed." For years, Ethan believed he knew where his life was going. He had a stable job in tech, a warm apartment downtown, and a partner everyone admired. From the outside, he was the picture of success. From the inside, something had been slipping away quietly, day by day. Without asking permission, Claire Bennett had moved into his life 7 years ago, like sunlight through an open window. She was thoughtful, calm, and strong in a way that didn't need attention. She remembered small details, listened carefully, and never raised her voice. People said she grounded him, and they were right. With Claire, life felt safe. But safety, Ethan was learning, was not the same as certainty. He heard her footsteps behind him and turned. Claire stood near the dining table, smoothing the edge of the tablecloth with careful hands. Her movements were gentle, almost slow, like she was giving herself time to think between breaths. She wore a simple blue dress, the one Ethan liked because it made her look calm and confident. "You didn't have to cook so much," she said, offering a small smile. "I wanted to," Ethan replied. His voice sounded normal, but his chest felt tight. "We haven't had a real dinner together in a while." "That's true," she said. Her smile stayed, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. They had both noticed the distance growing between them, though neither had named it out loud. It showed up in small ways. Shorter conversations, fewer shared laughs, long pauses that felt heavier than arguments. Claire spent more time lost in thought. And Ethan caught himself watching her when she thought he wasn't looking. Tonight, he planned to talk. Really talk. He had practiced the words during his commute, promising himself he wouldn't avoid the truth anymore. Relationships didn't survive silence. He knew that. Claire walked to the window and looked out at the rain. "Seattle feels different tonight," she said quietly. Ethan joined her. "Stormy?" "No," she replied after a moment, clear in a strange way. That unsettled him. Claire had always chosen her words carefully, and when she spoke like this, it usually meant she had already made a decision. They sat down to eat. The food was warm, the wine smooth, but the space between them felt larger than the table. Ethan tried to start a casual conversation, talking about work, about a project deadline, about a coworker's new baby. Claire listened politely, nodding at the right moments, but her attention drifted easily. Finally, Ethan set down his fork. "Claire, is something wrong?" She looked at him, really looked at him, and for a moment he thought she might cry. Instead, she smiled softly. "Do you remember when we first moved in together?" He nodded. "You insisted on bringing that old lamp." She laughed lightly. "I said it had character. You said it made the place feel like home." Her eyes softened at the memory. "I believed that." Ethan leaned forward. "Do you still?" Claire didn't answer right away. She took a sip of wine, then set the glass down carefully, as if placing it too hard might break something else. "I think home changes," she said. "Sometimes before we notice." The room felt suddenly smaller. Ethan swallowed. "If I've done something you haven't," she interrupted gently. "That's not it." He waited, heart pounding. "I think," Claire continued, "that we stopped asking the hard questions because we were afraid of the answers." Ethan's hands tightened on the edge of the table. "I want to ask them now." She nodded. "I know. That's why tonight matters." Before he could respond, the clock on the wall clicked loudly as it turned 7. Almost on cue, there was a knock at the door. 3 firm knocks. Ethan frowned. "Were you expecting someone?" Claire didn't turn toward the door. "No," she said calmly. "But it's time." His pulse quickened. "Time for what?" She stood, smoothing her dress, her movements steady. "For honesty." The knock came again, louder this time. Ethan pushed back his chair and stood. "Claire, what's going on?" She finally looked at him, her eyes full of something he couldn't name: sadness, love, and relief all at once. "I need you to trust me," she said. He stepped toward the door, but before he reached it, the handle turned. The door opened. She walked in without a key. Ethan froze. The woman who entered carried the smell of rain and the weight of memory. Her coat was dark, her hair damp from the storm, her face older but instantly familiar. Time had changed her, but not enough to hide who she was. "Hi, Ethan," she said softly. The world tilted. "Lena." His voice came out strained, like it hadn't been used in years. Lena Parker stood in his living room, the past made real. She had been his first deep love, the one who knew him before success, before comfort, before life became predictable. They had been young, hopeful, and painfully serious about each other. When she left for Canada to follow her dream job, they promised to stay close. They hadn't. "What are you doing here?" Ethan asked, barely aware of Claire standing beside him. Claire stepped forward. "I invited her." His head snapped toward her. "You did what?" Claire's voice remained calm. "I reached out a few weeks ago." Ethan felt the air leave his lungs. "Why would you do that?" Lena shifted, clearly uncomfortable. "If this is a mistake, I can leave." "No," Claire said quickly. "Please stay." Ethan looked between them, confusion and fear twisting together. "Claire, you can't just bring my past into our home without telling me." She met his gaze steadily. "I didn't bring your past. It was already here." The words landed hard. Claire took a breath. "I've watched you drift for months. I felt it before I understood it. You never spoke about her much, but whenever her name came up, something changed in you." "That's not fair," Ethan said, though part of him knew it was true. "I'm not blaming you," Claire replied. "I just needed to know what we were holding on to." Lena spoke carefully. "Claire contacted me after finding an old photo online. She asked if we could talk. I didn't know why at first." Ethan rubbed his face, overwhelmed. "This doesn't make sense." "It does," Claire said gently. "I needed clarity. And so do you." Silence filled the room again, thicker than before. Claire gestured toward the couch. "We should sit." They did, though Ethan felt like he was watching someone else's life. Lena sat on one side, hands folded in her lap. Claire sat on the other, composed but distant. Ethan remained between them, caught in a space he never expected to be in. "I'm not here to take anything," Lena said quietly. "I didn't even know Ethan was still with you until recently." Claire nodded. "And that's why this matters." Ethan looked at Claire, panic rising. "What are you saying?" She held his gaze. "I'm saying I love you enough to tell the truth." His heart pounded. "Which is?" "That I don't want to be the person standing between you and a question you never answered." The room seemed to hold its breath. Ethan felt something break open inside him, not desire, not regret, but recognition. Claire wasn't angry. She wasn't dramatic. She was letting go before resentment had a chance to grow. Tonight, she continued, was never about dinner. Ethan finally understood that whatever he thought he planned for this night no longer mattered, because Claire had already planned something else, and the story, he thought, he was living had just reached its turning point. The moment Lena Parker stepped into Ethan's apartment, the air changed. Rain clung to her coat, her hair damp and falling in soft waves around her face. The sound of the city outside, the drizzle, the distant horns faded. Everything felt like it had stopped, leaving only the three of them in a room thick with unspoken history. Ethan's heart pounded, but it wasn't fear. It was recognition. This was the woman who had haunted his thoughts for nearly a decade. The one he had loved before life pulled them apart. The one who had left for Toronto chasing dreams he had encouraged even as it broke him. "Hi, Ethan," Lena said softly, her voice carrying a mix of nostalgia and caution. "Lena." His voice cracked, the single name heavy with everything he hadn't said, everything he hadn't felt in years. He wanted to reach out, to step forward, but his feet felt rooted to the floor. Claire, standing nearby, didn't move. She had orchestrated this meeting, yet she looked calm, almost serene. Her eyes met Ethan's, a mixture of sadness and clarity. "I invited her," she said simply, as if that explained everything. Ethan turned to her, stunned. "You what? You invited her here, without telling me first." Claire's voice remained steady. "I wanted you to see her. I wanted all of us to be honest tonight. Not out of anger, not out of jealousy, but because the truth matters." It could hardly breathe. The room seemed smaller now, the space between them charged. Lena shifted slightly, clearly unsure if her presence was welcome. "If this is a bad time, I can leave," she said, but Claire shook her head. "No," Claire said firmly. "It's the right time." Ethan sank into the nearest chair, feeling like he had been knocked off balance. "I don't understand. Why now? Why like this?" Claire stepped closer, her calmness contrasting with his confusion. "Because sometimes waiting only makes the truth harder. I've watched you drift, Ethan, and I realized it's not fair to either of us to avoid what's been here all along." Lena's eyes softened as she looked at him. "Ethan, I never meant to interfere with your life. I wanted to see you. To say what I never said before." Ethan's chest tightened. He looked at Claire first, then at Lena, and then at the floor. He felt torn between the past and the present, between two women who had shaped his life in ways no one else could. His mind raced with memories, late-night talks, shared dreams, quiet laughter. Lena represented a chapter that had never truly ended. Claire represented the life he had built and the love he had come to rely on. Claire's voice cut through his thoughts. "I wanted to be strong enough to accept whatever answer comes tonight. And I want you to know, Ethan, this isn't about taking sides. It's about being honest. About giving both of you the space to feel what you feel without guilt or blame." Ethan shook his head. "I feel everything. I feel guilty. I feel confused. I feel alive in ways I didn't expect." Lena reached out slightly, hesitant, as if her hand might bridge the gap between the years. "Ethan, all I want is clarity. Nothing else. I need to know if the connection we had, if it ever really ended for you." Claire nodded, her eyes glistening but unwavering. "It's not easy to watch, but I want you to be honest with yourself and with him." Ethan leaned back, taking a deep breath. "I thought I had moved on. I thought I knew what I wanted. But seeing you here, it reminds me of everything I've tried to forget, everything I've kept buried." The room felt tense, yet intimate, the kind of tension that comes from unspoken truths waiting to be named. Lena's presence wasn't a threat. It was a mirror reflecting emotions Ethan hadn't faced in years. Claire's calmness wasn't indifference. It was courage, the courage to confront reality without letting fear dictate her actions. "I never stopped thinking about you," Ethan admitted, his voice low. "Even when life moved on. Even when I tried to convince myself it was over, a part of me held on." Lena's eyes softened, tears threatening to spill. "I felt the same. I wondered if you thought about me, if you ever remembered what we had." Claire watched quietly, listening, her own heart heavy but understanding. She had loved Ethan deeply, and she still did, but love sometimes means letting go when holding on would only hurt. Her decision to bring Lena into their lives tonight wasn't easy, but it was necessary. For all three of them. Ethan's voice broke slightly as he turned to Claire. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to navigate the feelings, the past, the present. I feel like I'm being pulled in two directions at once." Claire reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "That's because you are, and it's okay. You don't need to have all the answers tonight. You just need to be honest. With yourself. With Lena. With me." Lena nodded, tears now freely falling, but her smile was gentle, filled with hope and understanding. "I'm not here to disrupt anything. I just wanted a chance. To speak, to be honest about what I've felt all these years." Ethan's mind flashed through countless memories, long walks through the city. Rainy nights spent talking until dawn. Quiet moments of laughter and comfort. Those memories were vivid, alive, impossible to ignore. And now Lena was here, a living reminder of a love he had never truly closed the door on. Claire's eyes met his again. Sometimes love isn't about possession. Sometimes it's about truth. And the truth can be messy, but it's always worth facing. Ethan exhaled slowly, letting the words settle. I never expected this. I never imagined we'd be here like this. But I can't deny what I feel. Lena reached across the small space between them, her hand brushing his. The contact was brief, but it carried years of unspoken longing and emotion. Then don't deny it, she whispered. Ethan looked at Claire, feeling a mix of gratitude, sorrow, and admiration. Thank you, he said quietly, for trusting me, for trusting us. Claire smiled softly, though her eyes glistened. I trust you because I love you. And love doesn't always look like we expect it to. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's letting go. Lena's presence brought a sense of resolution, even amidst the chaos of emotions. Ethan realized that life didn't always give clear answers. Sometimes it presented moments that forced honesty, moments that required courage and vulnerability. Tonight was one of those moments. The rain outside continued, steady and calming, a quiet soundtrack to their conversation. Ethan felt a shift within himself, not just longing for the past, but recognition of the present. He could feel the weight of unspoken words lifting slightly, replaced by clarity and acceptance. I think we all needed this, Ethan said slowly. I needed this. Not to make a choice immediately, but to see clearly, to understand my heart without hiding. Claire nodded, stepping back slightly. And you will. Just be patient with yourself. And with her? And with me? Lena smiled faintly, wiping a tear. I don't want to rush anything. I just wanted this chance to be honest, to finally close the distance between what we feel and what we've said. Ethan's chest ached, but in a way that was more human than painful. It was hope and longing mixed together, a reminder that love was never simple, never neat. It was complicated, messy, and beautiful all at once. Claire stood, picking up her coat. I'm going to give you space. Both of you deserve that. Take your time. Figure it out. Live the truth tonight, not the fear. Before Ethan could protest, she smiled gently, nodded, and left the apartment. The door closed softly behind her, leaving only the faint sound of rain and the two of them. The silence stretched, filled with the weight of years and emotions finally given room. Ethan and Lena looked at each other, the past and present merging into a fragile, tentative connection. I didn't plan this, Lena admitted softly, but maybe we were never meant to forget each other entirely. Ethan exhaled, feeling the tension slowly ease. Neither did I, he said. But seeing you here, it feels like the first time I can breathe honestly in years. They sat there, two people caught between memory and possibility, letting the truth linger in the room. No promises were made. No decisions were forced. Just honesty. Just presence. And in that quiet, Ethan realized that sometimes love doesn't end in anger, or heartbreak begins again in small, unplanned moments, in the courage to face what was real. And in letting truth walk in without knocking. Outside, the rain continued, steady and cleansing. Inside, two hearts rediscovered each other. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt a glimmer of hope that love, in all its complexity, could still find its way home.